Hello, and welcome to episode 38 of 38 of the Movie Bros podcast. We are your hosts, Duncan and Hayden. I'm Duncan. He's Hayden.
Hello. Welcome back, everyone.
If you are new, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. If you are new, just as a kind of a summary, since we do this kind of every episode, just in case we are gaining more cult members as we go. So as a summary, folks, this is a weekly podcast where we pick a movie, watch that movie, discuss that movie, or ramble about that movie. We cover everything from historical fantasy, or historical fiction, romance, fantasy, drama, thriller, action, horror, whatever. And if you have suggestions on what we should be watching, you can reach out via Spotify, on Apple, or Amazon for podcasting, whatever platform you decide to use. The podcast is also on Instagram at @themovie_bros. Yeah, that's more or less what this is. And we'll probably have a couple more notes for you at the end of call to action sort of deals. I think that's all the buzzwords I can think of. Hayden, what are we watching this week?
Well, this week we are watching Titan AE, the science fiction adventure animation movie. It's a blend of lots of different things from the year 2000. This is directed by Don Bluth. If you're an animation fan, that name's gonna, you're gonna know who that is. If you're not specifically a 2D animation fan, that might not be super recognizable to you on his name, but you will probably recognize the things he's made, like An American Tale, The Land Before Time, Anastasia, and The Secret of Nim. He was really big in the 90s and early 2000s. He was trying to essentially beat Disney at their own game, and sometimes winning, sometimes losing. This is written by Ben Edlund, John August, and Joss Whedon. Big name there is Joss Whedon, and he may have become a little bit of a controversial figure with some of his personal life decisions, we'll put it like that. But clearly
They're
he's
not
talented.
even personal life, it's his professional, whatever.
Professional demeanor, whatever. Music here is by Graham Revell. It didn't really have anything down for cinematography. Either they didn't think to assign that to a specific role, or just didn't really have one because of the way this was shot. This stars Matt Damon, Bill Pullman, Drew Barrymore, Janine Garofalo, Nathan Lane, John Leguizamo, and features Ron Perlman. And that's kind of all I got. So last episode, we decided to bury the lead and save our ratings to the end. I think this time we're going to switch it up and say them right out of the gate, and then we can go on and explain why we feel that way.
Have at it.
This is like a solid 3 out of 5 for me. It is definitely fun, but I think it is too short, and I think it is a little bit emotionally hollow. It's definitely just there to show off all of the admittedly fairly impressive animation, both 2D and 3D, but the story itself is pretty thin.
Yeah, I think I put it at like a 2.5, 3. Same. Like again, there's parts of it that I really enjoy, and a lot of it is my childhood. But
Exactly.
looking back, I'm like, oh, like I can clear that. Like it's when you stack it against something Disney of the time, like Treasure Planet. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
it's hard to beat.
Well, I mean, I think Treasure Planet definitely has the better storyline, but I think there's actually some visuals in this that are just more interesting looking. They're just better done.
Oh, and this storyline, I can't remember where I put it in my notes, but
it's a little bit more adult.
It is a little more adult, exactly. Yeah, it's not a Disney movie, and it definitely feels that way.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, before the movie even got started, the THX
That's
intro.
The first thing I have written down.
Oh, dude, that is fucking childhood. There's so many people, so many young people who don't understand that. I can remember it making my chest vibrate in the theater when that kind of thing would go on.
Yeah,
as a kid.
I wonder whatever became of that company.
I know they probably. I'm gonna guess they got incorporated into like IMAX or something like that. Is my guess.
Probably, but yeah, that's the first thing I've written. Like, because then I had to sit there and think, when's the last time I saw that in a movie? It's gotta be like 15 years.
Yeah, it's a good question because I can't think of like specifically what the last thing was either. But yeah, R.I.P. THX. But Ron Perlman just always being fucking Ron Perlman. Though. God, I just fucking love him.
I
Ugh.
mean, I love Ron Perlman as well, but like this is kind of across the board for everyone in this. This is taking the definition of voice acting really liberally. Like almost no one's trying to do a voice other than this is just their normal voice.
But that's no, but that's okay. Like they
Well, I
just
mean,
want their
outside
voice.
of like the people doing the non-human characters, I guess.
Sure. I did not realize this was Drew Barrymore until like
Well,
just
she
now.
doesn't. Well, she doesn't have a huge amount of lines in this.
No, she doesn't, and I don't find that she emotes a ton.
I mean, the greatest respect to her. I don't think she's a great actress just in general. I think she was very pretty in the early 2000s, and so she tended to show up in a lot of things. I don't know if she's all that good.
Well, I will say, like, I'm looking at her filmography right now. I have not seen a ton of her like super well known things. And yes, obviously she was the pretty girl,
Yeah,
but I think I think I need more data before I can
I
make a
mean,
judgment on her
I
acting
think she
skills.
was pretty good in some of the. I mean, ironically enough, some of the Adam Sandler rom coms of the day,
Those
but
are the ones that I haven't seen.
I think 50 First Dates is is fun.
Yeah, have not seen it.
You should track it down. It's definitely worth watching. It's probably the better of them. I One of the first things I'd written, I'm like I had forgotten just what kind of a opening sequence this movie has. Like for something that is arguably aimed at like 13, 14 year olds. It opens with freaking genocide and blowing up the earth and like glassing the planet. Like
hmm
that's fairly intense, and I don't know if you would do it today.
And well, during that scene, what I like is when they show all the starships. Because again, this is 2000, so this is well after Star Wars. They were very specific. Like none of it looked like it belonged in. Like it was cool non-Star Wars designs for a lot of stuff in the movie. And I mean, yeah,
Yes.
specifically that scene in the ships, but like nothing felt
Well,
like, oh,
it
you're just
was
copying X, Y, and Z kind of thing.
yeah, I enjoyed that it looked not like Star Wars, Star Trek, or The Matrix, which I think would have been the easier calls.
And yes, like the little like drone ships for the bad guy energy ships did kind of give me TIE fighter vibes, but like
Hmm.
not enough for it to be like, oh, this is just a derivation of that.
I will say, having seen a handful of other Don Bluth stuff, like Anastasia,
Never seen it.
it's very very good. It's animated in a similar fashion. Unfortunately, that also means he only knows how to draw one male face, and
Yeah.
all of his guys look the same. I don't know. I just one of the first things I wrote down here when I just started turning the movie on. It's like yes, Don Bluth man face syndrome. I had forgotten you.
uh, chainsaws were sick, dude.
Oh, in the opening, like when he's cutting up the
Basically, just space garbage. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it was I do like that all of the technology, at least until like the very end, feels sort of believable. Like it's all
Yeah.
kind of grungy, kind of dirty. It's nuts and bolts. There's not a whole lot of like, for lack of a better term, Jedi wizardry going on.
hmm
It's all very, cast iron, big hulking machines.
Yes.
I like that idea.
When he first lands on the windscreen and sees Akima.
Akima.
Uh,
Akira is a very different movie.
yeah. Uh, it's weird because partly I'm like, okay, I remember probably having a crush on her as a little kid, but then I didn't realize her design. Like, if you look at this fucking slant on her eyes, they made
Oh
her
yeah. Oh yeah.
wow.
It is questionable. And also questionable is that like they didn't even get like an Asian voice actress.
No, not at all. Yeah, that's what I thought was weird because I was like, oh, I never really realized that she is very like she's got Asian roots somewhere, but it's Drew
And it's
Barrymore.
and it's even down to her name. Akima is clearly kind of an Asian sounding name. I don't know.
hmm
It is weird now to look back at it.
I do have such a distinct memory of the dredge when they first like come into like the cafeteria to look for him.
Yep.
Like the first time I saw him, I was like, "Oh, I've literally put together like a plastic
I
model of
remember
this
that thing.
guy,
Yeah.
like with a whole stand and everything, glued the like with
I wonder what became of that.
all those models that we built over the years, just where they went over time. I'm sure, like
Oh, I'm sure our dad has them in a box somewhere.
somewhere, the amount of shit they have in that house and in that storage space in the back, and
Who knows?
okay, all right. I did feel like this is one part that they clearly separated from being a kids movie was they actually showed the tiny little bits of blood here and there.
Oh yeah, I mean, they blow a hole through Akima's shoulder later in the movie.
Well, and so usually, regardless, I mean, regardless of the studio of that time, there's going to be a musical number. Even if it's not a musical, there's going to be a montage with music. From Treasure
And there's
Planet
like
when he's
two of
surfing.
them,
But this was like actual like metal music. It just seemed
kind of.
I was like metal music seemed odd for a kids movie. The soundtrack is kind of meh.
Well, I think it doesn't know where to land. Like it will shift back and forth between fairly standard adventure space music, but then they'll just throw in random R&B songs from the day. Like when he's getting his medical examination and they're doing the whole
Mm-hmm.
running joke of he's without pants, you
Uh-huh.
can hear in the background there's just like I don't know, there's like a Spice Girls song or something playing. It's just like why? This is so tonally very weird.
Mm-hmm. When they are escaping the cafeteria and basically the window cracks and they basically have to like use the fire extinguisher to boost up into the big ship.
Right.
So, first of all, the vacuum of space means
I
it's gonna
mean, they
be
would be very, very
cold
dead.
as fuck. So, A, they'd be frozen within seconds, even if they held their breath. Two, the fire extinguisher that they are using that is pushing a gas out, literally just the physics of it, that would be frozen. Like that would not work at all.
I mean, I think if you don't apply any kind of logic to it whatsoever, it's a fun, quick scene.
Well, of course, no, but there's there's lots of sci-fi out there that sometimes they actually address things like that, and a lot of times they don't. Like I know we're watching Skeleton Crew with our parents, where they're like on a alien planet, and there's an atmosphere, and they never address it.
I mean, so later in this, they go to the Gowl planet where like with like the
Oh
bat
yeah, what? And
people.
they're like, oh yeah, it's perfectly normal air. Yeah, fuck it.
Well, no, it's not that. It's they have a plot device of oh, we have hydrogen cluster trees, which is it's kind of cool.
It's a
But like
cool idea.
once you blow up one of them, they would all start blowing up
Yeah,
from
pretty
like
much.
chain reaction. The
Yes.
fact that the entire planet doesn't immediately turn into a fireball is a
Yeah,
little
the Hindenburg.
dubious.
Yeah,
Like again, that's a cool sequence, but only if you don't really think about it.
I do like that. Basically, from the start of the movie to almost the end, they hint at like the abilities of the Titan, like the ship, but they're never like, oh, you can make another planet using this ship. They're like, oh, it's gonna connect all the humans, like it's gonna save us. Like it was never like, oh, by the way,
Yeah, yeah.
this makes a planet. I do
Well,
like that they subtly
something
hint it.
that I both liked and disliked is that it ends up in a giant ice,
Oh,
field.
super cool. Yeah,
Oh, don't get me wrong. The ice field, especially the CG effects in the ice field, are genuinely incredible.
yeah,
But like,
for 2000, yeah,
I mean, it still holds up really well. But like, yes, that's cool. And I also like how it ties into the fact that that's the perfect kind of place a terraforming ship would need because it would suck all the moisture out of the air.
sure. And I even wrote this like, oh, something that I think this does better generally in its very short runtime compared to a lot of Star Wars, for example, is oh, you're not stuck on the desert planets every single time. Like they go to
Yes,
interesting places.
you are hopping around really quick, and I think that's also something that I like here is that this is only 90 minutes and it clips along. There's
Well,
not a whole lot of
there's
sitting
not a lot
around
to
talking.
this. Yeah.
And that is a double-edged sword. Like I mentioned earlier with my rating, I kind of wish there was a little
I
bit
agree.
more going on, but I can appreciate the fact that they just want you along for the ride.
hmm I like that. I think that again, compared to, for example, like Treasure Planet, they sprinkled in a little bit of it there, where you get meet the crew of like the pirate ship. But this year, all the crew members are very specific. Like this is a character that you actually get some development in.
And you're not having to keep track of an entire pirate cruise ship. Like there's
Yeah,
only
there's like
4 of them.
5 people. Yeah.
Like that is such an easier decision. I really love the design work. I mean, just across the board, but especially for the dredge.
Oh, sure. I wrote the about like their ship, their mothership, their actual like people. It's interesting.
And I really like how the idea of everything that they're using is just made out of electricity. You know, you can fall through the walls and you can reform different things into other
hmm
stuff. It's a really cool idea, and I think that they're I mean even like the soldiers of them, like their body designs is very cool. They kind of look like big electric bugs almost in their face because they have
Sort
like
of.
those kind of like pincher things around that black void part. It's just there are so many nice design choices going on here. It is definitely the highlight and the reason why you watch this.
Well, not just the design, but like there's the occasional time where yes, it's 2D, but then they sprinkle in the 3D, and I'm like, okay, like pretty good looking background right there. All right.
Well, I actually today sat through some of the deleted scenes and things, and because I watched it earlier, but um, almost everything that isn't like a character animation, like isn't the Matt Damon guy or
Mm-hmm.
Bill Pullman,
Sure.
is a 3D object. There is a ton of 3D work in this, and it all holds up like incredibly well. There's
Mm-hmm.
like I was surprised.
One of my other issues, though, so their whole thing is, oh, we got to beat the dredge, we got to beat them to the ship, we got to get there as fast as possible. But then there is this again. Every animated movie of this time has to have a montage, and that one of them was, oh, we're gonna do this crazy fun joyride of like him,
Yeah,
the main guy getting to drive the ship and it going all over the place, and it was pretty, it was cool. But I was like, I feel like if you're trying to get like, what the fuck are you doing, dude?
yeah,
And I get
I've
the whole like
never
not having
understood
like
why it was there other than it's
besides
cool
the whole
looking.
well, and like the having the father figure kind of deal. I get it. Uh, Akima at the shower. Oof. I was like, oh, I can clearly tell younger Duncan was like, is this love? Oh my god. There's
Well,
steam?
let's see. This came out in 2000, so I would have been 9, I think, maybe 8.
You would have been 8, but granted, I feel like I probably didn't even see this when this first came out.
Oh, definitely not. And I'm not even sure I did.
I bet we got this on VHS at some point, but like, yeah, I can see this
Definitely.
probably being 6 or 7 seeing this. Um, I know we kind of referenced it, but like all the mirror effects that they basically got to use to play around in the ice. Oh, so freaking
It's
cool.
like
Well, I
I
see
don't
stuff
even
like
know
that, and I
how
was
you
like,
would do that today and do it better. Like
oh no,
it
that's what I'm
looks
saying. I was like, oh,
perfect.
could they make this nowadays? Slash, could they make this live action and have it be super cool as shit?
Um
I don't know how.
Probably.
Well, I think of like the aliens could be whoever. I mean, the aliens in District 9 are disgusting, but they look amazing. Like, you have the
Oh
tech to
yeah.
make the aliens look good. I feel like I don't know. I feel like it'd be kind of a cool.
You could get Michael Fassbender to play Corvo, Kosovo, the older guy.
Mhm. Yeah, I can see that.
And then to
Who would you
play the
play as
younger guy. I
Glenn
mean,
Powell is too pretty,
and he's too old. Remember, he
and
has
he's
to
too
be
old.
like
Oh, I don't know that
more of
many,
a
like,
younger.
younger actors.
I hate that my brain wants to say Timothy Chalamet.
No,
I
incorrect.
mean, it's a terrible choice. I think he's the only like younger actor I know off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So maybe Michael Fassbender
Okay.
is like a little bit
What
not
is
old enough.
uh Bill Pullman, who plays Corvo in the original? His son could play the main guy.
He has a son?
Yeah, his son is in Top Gun Maverick. He is in Bad Times at the El Royale. He is going to be
Huh.
Sentry in the new Thunderbolts.
Oh. You know who you could
He,
get as Kale, the main guy? You could get
Mhm.
Jack Quaid.
Yeah, I mean, he's too. I don't know. You could, but
He's not as handsome as he should be, I think.
well, not just that. He's a little. It sounds weird, but he's a little too scrawny. I feel like. Not
Maybe.
that Kale is like this big buff dude, but I feel like he's. I don't know.
No, but you could definitely make this today, make it live action, and have it be maybe padded out a little bit more with more
Oh, sure.
conversations. It would be very cool.
I would be down for that. Just a thought, but yeah.
Well, I mean, other than just me kind of having a nice nostalgia trip and getting to legitimately marvel at some of the technological choices in this, I don't really have a whole lot else written down.
I don't either, and I think every once in a while something like that is totally fine, where it's just an enjoyable, like, oh, this is just a fun time. I don't have a ton to say, but like, I'm glad I got to rewatch it, kind of deal.
Sure.
If you saw this and you liked this, what would you recommend to people?
Well, I mean, we've mentioned it in passing a couple times now. I would obviously recommend Treasure Planet.
What other? It's by that director, because again, I haven't seen much by
Oh,
him. It
Don
sounds like.
Bluth. Well, they're all a little bit more like anthropomorphic animal stuff. This one's definitely his only sci-fi, unfortunately. I would recommend The Secret of Nim. In my opinion, I think that's one of Don Bluth's better things. It's like a dark fantasy about kind of like Redwall mice. Very well done. And then I would maybe point them toward Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas with Brad Pitt. I have very fun memories of watching that. You know, 2003. Probably 10 or 11 years old. I remember that being a lot of fun.
Okay, those are good recs. I would agree with. I would agree with the ones that I've seen.
Well, that's kind of our thoughts on Titan AE. I know that I watched this on a physical copy. Is this available to stream somewhere? So it's available on Prime Video or Apple TV if you have the subscription.
Which probably means you can use Prime to get a free trial of Apple. So really, it's available on Apple. Okay, well, now that we've chatted through and rambled through that, let's do our icebreaker audio section. So, folks, if you are new or if you're not and you've forgotten, or well, either way, you're gonna have to listen to it. Uh, every week we kind of pick a not generic, but a question you might hear if you are starting at a new job or going to a new school. The kind of the questions that you get asked when people are trying to get to know you. We started doing this just so you, the audience, kind of know who we, the hosts, are beyond just our opinions on these specific movies.
Alrighty. And this week's icebreaker audio is going to be, if you could master any skill instantly, what would it be and why?
Ooh, probably a language, probably the ability to like learn languages. Because actually, I could have sworn I've read somewhere where like that is little like a skill of not just any specific language, but like knowing like the way of like learning all languages is a I don't know if it's a technique or a skill, however you want to say it, but
It's a kind of specific memorization that you have to learn.
yeah, yeah. I would definitely think that would be a super cool to be able to basically talk to anyone I want or understand anyone I want, which
Sure.
makes travel easier. I would open up potentially a lot of career paths. Maybe in a smaller frame, I would. Oh man, just being able to know how to play piano or like any musical instrument that I want, I think would be kind of sick.
Sure.
You?
I also had the thought of, well, I mean, definitely being able to speak languages easier. I mean, even if I didn't, need to hear them once and then immediately memorize it like I'm freaking Beethoven or something, like just to be able to train your brain to be able to do that would be so cool. But I think for me, it's got to be. I would love to be able to master the skill of being able to do my own mechanical car work
That's a good
because
one.
I mean that means I could I mean, if we're going with the idea that, oh, you just download this knowledge and you like instantly have it, like you are now the master of this knowledge, then I could buy any broken down truck I wanted, or I could find a car from the '60s and I could fix it up, and I wouldn't have to fork over thousands of dollars to fix anything I needed on whatever car I have, because I've
Yeah, that's fair.
yeah, that's just always something I've been kind of envious that people have learned how to do, and there's no real way to do it unless you have like a pit of your own, or like a space in which you can have a junker car just to work on in your free time, and I don't know if I have that anymore. So I would love to learn that. I think that would be very useful and also interesting.
Perhaps more far fetched, but I remember putting my nerdy hat on. But Echo in the Marvel comics, who for a while there was Ronin for the new Avengers,
Oh, with like the
which
white face and the
was
yeah,
the white hand on her face, which they made a limited series on Disney Plus, and I heard it was kind of meh. And
I
I
heard it
don't.
was not great. Yeah,
I heard it was also like not very true to at least those comics I remember reading. Either way,
sure.
um, those ones that I remember reading, part of her ability was like, oh, if I see someone do something, I can do it.
I thought that was Taskmaster.
Well, I think he's basically the evil version, but either way,
But
I
yeah,
think that
that
would be
that
like,
that would
oh,
be cool.
granted, that's almost sort of like a Neo thing, basically just downloading the ability,
Well,
but
this whole question's kind of a Neo thing, you know.
I suppose. But yeah, I would say language would be definitely up there, but yeah,
I mean, I would also love to, finally learn how to play guitar or something like that. I know that that was something I wanted to do when I was younger, and I had an acoustic guitar for many years, and I couldn't bring myself to practice to actually learn how to do it. I definitely should have, but I couldn't bring myself to put that kind of work in. So I would still like to, have that knowledge zapped into myself if I could, I guess.
you're not dead yet. There are lessons and
No,
stuff
I
you can
mean,
take.
I'm aware I could do that, but I feel like at this point in my life I don't know if I could really feel comfortable allocating the kind of time I would need to do that at this point.
I suppose.
Well, the audience, I don't know if we want to share it or not. We did record this nearly double back with our other one, so we might not have a whole lot to share on the front of what are we looking forward to, what have we seen. Although
That's
knowing
fair.
you, it is entirely possible you have watched 5 movies since yesterday. So,
Well, let me look at my list just in case. Well, I finished the Monster Eric and Lyle Menendez dramatization on Netflix.
did they do it?
Well, so the question was never did they kill their parents. Like even like the reasoning behind it was. I don't want to get into it, but I finished that. I I am currently about halfway through today because watched some during the day and then a little bit on my break at work. But I don't know why I chose to rewatch this. It's not even a good movie, but what's it called? The Men Who Stare at Goats with
I
George
own that
Clooney.
movie. It's fun.
Really? I mean, it's
I
fun.
I remember buying it like super cheaply.
Yeah, I would not pay money for it, but that's what
I
I've been
I'm
watching today.
I thought it was fun. It kind of felt like knockoff Coen brother comedy.
A little bit. And I like seeing Obi-Wan Kenobi doing non Obi-Wan Kenobi things.
Sure. I mean, if you want the like extreme example of that, you should watch Train Spotting.
I know of it and I know it's like people talk about it, but I've
I
never
mean, it's great, but it is a rough
I've
watch.
yeah, I haven't gotten around to that yet. Well, the like we I don't know if we referenced this on air if this was prior. We just opened The Monkey, which is a movie based off a short story by Stephen King in my work. And when setting it up, originally I was pretty not interested.
Because you're
And
not a
not that
big
I
horror guy.
no, but and again, not that I am like chomping at the bit to go see this thing, but it actually is because again, it's supposed to be a horror comedy, and it looks much more comedy than I thought it would be. So I would say I am definitely open to seeing it, and we may go see it. Maybe we'll talk about it. Maybe we won't. We'll see what happens. But I guess that's the only thing I can reference that we haven't referenced prior about what's coming out.
I forgot to mention it last week, but I got out to watch Sleepwalkers, the classic goofy 80s like possessed black cat horror movie from Stephen King. It's at a place called the Blue Mouse Theater out near me, which is a really cool independent place. Uh, had a good time, and I would just say that in general, if you know of an independent theater, you should find a way to support them. Don't always go to Regals or AMC's. You should find smaller theaters and try and give them your patronage just as well. It's equally as fun.
That's a good note. I agree with that. Granted, I don't go out to theaters as often as I used to in general, but yeah, I think that's more or less everything I feel like we need to talk about. So,
What are we watching next week?
oh yeah, Oceans 11, 12, and 13.
We're gonna do a quick triple feature episode next week.
Yeah, we'll see how much we have. I'm granted that all the movies are fairly similar,
They are.
but they all have their own thing, and so we'll probably spend 10, 15 minutes talking about each one. Uh, Not to spoil it, but I love a good heist movie, and these are good heist movies, so
Yeah.
it's a good time if you haven't watched them. I would say find wherever they are and watch those.
I believe those are on Max.
Okay. So that is coming next week. Yeah, thanks for listening to episode 38 of the Movie Bros podcast. We have been Duncan and Hayden. If you have questions, comments, complaints, compliments, anything like that, you know where to find us. Otherwise, hang in there and we will talk to y'all next week.